Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology in the hand. I'm going to be talking about how astrology relates to the hand and literally the hand, the body part, the hand in manifold ways, and just the various ways astrology can correlate or correspond with the hand. And the first thing I want to get at as far as hands and and zodiac sign, types, as far as the elements go. Well, some of you may know, but like as far as the hands go for the earth signs, they tend to be very squarish, the palms. Now, the air signs tend to be very triangular in shape. And you look at and as far as the water signs go, water signs could have very oval shaped hands. And the fire signs can be often cone shaped. So especially you'd be looking at the person's ascendant sign in terms of their hand. And often, I mean, if you don't know, one way to look at this is if you don't know the person's ascendant sign, they don't know their time of birth, you may be able to narrow it down to an element by the shape of the hand, because it'll often resonate with the ascendant sign, because the ascendant dominates the appearance. So that would be one way, except besides the obvious physical characteristics you're looking for as far as specific rising signs go. But you may be able to narrow it down to a certain element as to whether the person might have an earth ascendant, an air ascendant, a fire ascendant, or a water ascendant. My hands are very square. Palms of my hands are very square, and I have Taurus rising. The palms can often be very wide with earth ascendant people. Now, another thing is, as far as like hands and the ability with the hands and what one may be proficient in with their hands, and looking at the astrological positions and placements to see where somebody could be very adept with the use of their hands. Now, if somebody has like Mercury on their sun or ascendant, maybe perhaps even the moon as well, I mean, there might be very good dexterous ability. I mean, Mars and Gemini can give very good dexterity as far as like having dexterity with the hands. Odell Beckham Jr., who is, of course, many of you may know, is a very renowned wide receiver, I believe, in the NFL. He has Mercury on his ascendant, and he's got Mercury in Sagittarius, the sign of sports. So go figure. And I saw him one time make a stupendous catch, at least one stupendous, phenomenal catch. He made one time. It was a one-handed catch going out of bounds, and he made that catch that would made him pretty, added to his fame, where he just, really had his arm was like really outstretched. It looked like it was like behind him, and he holding the ball with one hand, and he's obviously has very, good dexterity. Now, dexterous, being ability to be dexterous, have good use with the hands. I wouldn't say is necessarily limited to conjunctions like with the sun, moon, or ascendant. You could have, say, somebody with like they have Mercury sextile their Uranus. It could be somebody that might be very good like with the use of electronics, using the hands and computers. They're doing computer technical work or repair, especially say if you've got like Aquarius involved in that as well, with Mercury in Aquarius or Uranus in Aquarius. With me, I mean, like, and also too, there's things in the chart you could look for as far as actual like difficulties, I would think, with the hands as well. Remember that, well, somebody that has the sun, moon, or ascendant in Gemini all can have, it can give a greater propensity to have issues with the hands, especially with the sun or the ascendant. The ascendant, of course, is dominant. It's connected with the physical body. The sun can play some role in that as well, but not as dominant as the ascendant on average. If somebody, especially with ascendant or sun in Gemini, may have some issues with the hands, like carpal tunnel syndrome, for example, or just basic injuries to the hands. When we had, it was interesting, we had that transit with with Mercury retrograde in Pisces for some time. I mean, there was a number of people I was hearing about were having issues with their hands, and being in Pisces, of course, those issues can be may have been rather nebulous and unclear and obscure. I had a friend of mine who has a Pisces um, Pisces sun. His sun sign is in Pisces, and he was interesting. He was telling me, I believe it was during the time we had transit Mercury retrograde in Pisces, that he was having some issues with his hands, and he wasn't really sure what was going on with him. He also has a Gemini ascendant, so he does have some other indicators for issues with the hands in his natal chart. I have my moon in Gemini, and I've had some issues with my hands. I have extensive nerve damage to my hands. Well, really, I mean irrevocable nerve damage, and I've gotten tingling in my hands, and that just that fun stuff that's connected with the nerve damage in the hands. And I can't do a lot of things that I used to do, unfortunately, because of the irrevocable damage. Now, a thing, and also in the natal chart, there can be other things as well, aspects as well. It's not just sign placements. You could have, say, you have Mercury making an adverse aspect to your natal Uranus. That's what I have, and I've had issues. I think that's added to the propensity or proclivity for nerve damage, because Uranus, I mean, nerve damage in the hands, because Mercury can be connected with the hands, and you have an adverse aspect to Uranus, and Uranus can be connected with nerves. So you have those two planets adversarial. There you go. There, I think that's one of the reasons I have that strong nerve damage with my hands. And also look at the signs as well. I mean, I have Mercury in Cancer, and this issue, I believe, got exacerbated when I was working as a dishwasher in a restaurant. And the zodiac sign Cancer, of course, can be associated with food. So I think that obviously may have factored into where this problem became, where it was really exacerbated. I also have a series of conjunctions in Cancer stellium, which starts with my Mercury in Cancer, goes to my Sun, conjuncting my Sun in Cancer, and the Sun in Cancer conjuncting my Mars. And Mars can be connected with injuries. And I used to work out very vigorously. The zodiac sign Cancer can be connected with the home. I was working out at home, and very persistently, my persistent Taurus ascendant, and I did this for a number of years, and it may have caught up with me. Mercury, of course, going back to the hands, so it's not surprising I got a hand-related injury. Mercury conjuncting the Sun, where I was putting a lot of energy into it, and then ending with Mars, unfortunately, resulting eventually in an injury. And my hands were injured as a result of it, and my arms. I do have the extensive nerve damage to my arms as well. Now, also, house placements can play a role in this as well. If somebody says Mercury in the 12th house, they may have limitations with the use of their hands. Let's say if they have, like, maybe I'd say a malefic in the 3rd house. The 3rd house rules hands as well. Say if you have Pluto in your 3rd house, this could be about obliteration, destruction with the use of the hands, and especially if you have other elements or some aspects in the chart that can confer or reaffirm this, such as like an adverse aspect to your Mercury. There might be some lack of control as far as the utilization of your hands may go. If you have like transits, like say if you have transit like Saturn hitting your 3rd house, that could be where you may be dealing with some restrictions with the use of the hands. And if you're an older person, it could be that older age could be very well factoring into the restrictions connected with the use of one's hands. And also, again, transit Pluto hitting the 3rd house, this could be really where you feel like your hands are almost, the use of them might be obliterated. Or transit Uranus hitting the 3rd house, this is where you might experience something unusual connected with the use of the hands. It might be where you might, because Uranus can be associated with the nerves, this is where one may get perhaps some nerve damage that can be associated with one's hands. So, I mean, you have other transits as well. If you have transit Chiron hitting your natal Mercury, that, Chiron, of course, can be about not just emotional wounds, but they can be about physical ones as well. That may give a greater propensity to cause wounds and injuries with the use of the hand. Say if this is in Scorpio, Scorpio can be about mechanical ability. It can be where maybe one was doing something, working on something mechanical, or it could be, Scorpio is also transformation. It may have been something in connection with recycling or rebuilding a vehicle. So we're sculpting, which may have caused some injury to one's hands. If it's in Taurus, Taurus and even Capricorn could be very consistent energy. Taurus could be very monotonous. And let's say if you have transit Chiron in Taurus or Capricorn hitting your natal Mercury, it could be the result of something very repetitive that you were doing routinely with the hands, such as working as a checker. As many of you may know, people that worked as like a cashier, retail, even restaurant business could kill you. I don't mean literally kill you, but what it can, it could really cause very strong injuries to the hands. You see a lot of people, a lot of these cashiers, checkers, be wearing those hand braces, unfortunately, because that's what happens through the repetitive use of the hands. I think a lot of the people that get those jobs don't think of the possible repercussions as a result of them, but that does happen, unfortunately, in many instances. Hold on a moment, people. And also progressions in one's chart can play a role too. If in your progress chart, if you have any of the things that I just described, like say Pluto in the third house, or say your sun, moon, or ascendant has progressed into the zodiac sign Gemini, that could be another example. Or if your Mercury is you're making a number of adverse aspects in your progress chart, that could be another example as to perhaps some issues with the hands. But anyway, those are some things I wanted to get at as far as this goes. And also house rulers as well can play a role. Say if somebody has the ruler of the 12th house and the 3rd house, which is what I have, that could be about limitations with the hands, or vice versa, ruler of the 3rd house and the 12th house of limitations. Again, the 3rd house can be connected with the hands. But going back again, go quickly before I end this video, some positive things with the hands. If somebody is, transit if they have in their natal chart Mercury making a sextile trine to their natal Jupiter, that could be very positive, just in general very auspicious for the use of the hands. And say if you have Mercury in your 10th house, your natal chart, or even Gemini on the 10th house cusp, this could be somebody that might get some notoriety and accolades for maybe doing something that required dexterity, whether it could have been sculpting or working as an auto refrigeration mechanic, juggling, something that would require the strong use of the hand, ability to use the hand. So those are some things to look at as far as astrology and the hand or hands may go. So anyway, people, and also, too, if you're going to have surgery, one last thing, I know I keep saying, it's getting redundant, I keep saying I'm going to end this and I don't. My contradictory Gemini moon in action maybe, but seriously, if you're going to have surgery on the hand, of course, many of you may know about, more favorable, auspicious times for surgery, such as having the moon, the transit moon being placed in a fixed sign as an example. I would also think if you have transit, if let's say if you're having again, going back to the hands, you're having surgery on the hands. If you have transit Jupiter making a sextile or trine to your natal Mercury, even a conjunction perhaps, I think that could prove a little bit more favorable, more beneficial and auspicious, and very fortuitous for that surgery. There's just so many things to look at as far as that goes. You could find a number, like if you have a surgery day for your hands, you could have something which could be many favorable elements, but a lot of times you will just happen to see one negative. So a lot of times it may just be simply looking at the positive elements and aspects that are taking place at the time in transits, as opposed to the negative ones, and weighing them out. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying Stay well.